We got Craig in here.
Thanks, Craig.
Talk episode 5. We have our guest Amber.
Hi.
And yeah. So
Me as always, your favorite.
Alice C, yep. So let's just jump right into these questions. So
well, first, you should probably tell them that she's Amber of Dreams and Schemes Photography.
Yeah, Amber of Dreams and Schemes Photography. You guys can check out her Instagram. We'll put it in the bio or the description. And actually, you want to tell us a little bit about your Instagram page and what it revolves around?
I mean, my Instagram is all over the place right now. It's mostly landscapes and a lot of music photography, like live music.
Okay.
Because that's mostly what I try to focus on because it's the easiest, because my boyfriend's in a band, so I have my subject.
Is that how you and Alice kind of know each other?
Yeah.
Yeah, her boyfriend was a vocalist in my husband's band. Well, their band. Whatever.
That was cool. I also did photography for the band before my boyfriend was in it, so that was cool too.
That's true, yeah.
Do you do a lot of photography? Is that your main thing for bands? You take pictures for bands?
Oh yeah, I honestly if I could just take off doing music photography, I would kill to do that.
Yeah. I've always seen whenever I go to a concert, I always see those people taking pictures up close to the stage and stuff. I'm just damn, how do I get that job?
Oh yeah, it's so much fun. You get to go up on the stage behind the performers to get to the drummer and stuff, and you can see the crowd, and it's just a totally different perspective, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like having a VIP pass, but extra.
Yeah.
It's like VIP, you go backstage, but when you're a photographer, you're in our face all night. It'd be great.
Yeah, and you don't even have to pay for the VIP pass. They pay you.
Pretty much.
So
So other than music related stuff, what's your favorite kind of thing to shoot?
I definitely like the landscapes. I like going on adventures 2 hours into the woods and finding stuff that normal people don't see. Even little things like stuff growing on trees or vines or things like that normal people walk right by. That's just something that I think is really cool to showcase, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So the little things that people may not pick up on, and every day, you literally go and look for the finer things.
Yeah, like little bits of flowers that are hiding under leaves and mushrooms on trees and the way that clouds look at that time, stuff like that. Random normal people don't pay attention to it. They just keep walking and they're all right, well, I have to get from point A to point B, and I go from point A all the way through the alphabet before I hit B.
That's how Brian is when we hike. He just wants to get there and I'm stopping all the time.
Yeah,
it's so pretty. And
then I come back from my adventures with a SD card full of pictures and a pocket full of rocks.
Pretty much. It's just, what got you into... Sorry, you can go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I like being like a little kid in the woods with a camera. That's the easiest way for me to describe it.
What got you into photography as a business venture rather than something you did for fun?
To be honest, I guess the first point where I realized that I wanted to do it as a business was I think I was 17, and a couple of my friends from the South Shore had posted that they got into this showcase in Boston, and they were showing off all their prints and stuff, and they were like, yeah, there's more room if you want to apply. And I was like, oh, well, I'll do that for whatever. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I got accepted, and I went and did a showcase in Boston, and I was literally the youngest person that they had ever had in one of those showcases, because normally you had to be 21 because it was a 21 plus event. So I was 17 years old sitting in this showcase in the middle of Boston with a whole bunch of different artists. There were photographers, there were models and musicians and painters and sculptors, and I just realized that that's what I want to do. I want to do more of that. I didn't do the best in the showcase because I was 17 and didn't really prepare all that well because it was last minute, but it was real fun, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna keep doing this. This is the thing that I want to do.
So were you probably feeling a lot of inspiration by other people there?
Oh yeah. I pull inspiration from everyone. I follow hundreds of photographers. I look through Facebook and other people's Instagrams, and I'm like, wow, I really like the color scheme of that, or the outfit in that. I could do something kind of like that, but I try to make everything as me as possible, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's okay for people to like draw inspirations from things, and because like when you release your product to the world, that is a mixture of everything that you're inspired by and your own personal taste. So yeah,
it's very hard to be 100% original now that so many people are doing so many different things. Everything is inspired by something at this point.
Yeah. I think this comes up a lot between me and Bri, is there's only, I mean, obviously musically, there's only so many chords out there.
Yeah.
You're bound to repeat them.
And I feel that a lot when I go to certain places. Like I'll see somebody take a picture, like for instance, there's a place in Brattleboro, it's Madame Cherie's forest. There's this big, it's like a staircase and half of like a castle thing, and I've seen hundreds of pictures there.
Yeah.
And like I went there, I shot there as a model. Like I've had friends shoot there as models, and it's just a place that a whole bunch of people go to, and you just need to make the photos your own, because you need to look at those other photos so you can see what other people have done, so you don't have the same exact photo. So you can go to a different angle, or you can change the colors up or add something,
Yeah.
I think I know that set. Was that the one of the elf sets you did?
It was actually the one with the smoke bombs. My profile picture on Facebook.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really cool place.
I absolutely love your profile picture.
Thanks.
But we're actually going to have you send in some of your favorite like model and shoot like pictures you've taken, shots to put in throughout the podcast if you want.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to have to look through a lot of stuff.
We don't need them until like Sunday morning.
Oh, okay.
So
how do you go about getting models for your to take pictures and stuff?
I post something on Facebook and I'm like, hey guys, like I'm going to be in this area. Does anyone want to do anything? Or being a model helps a lot because I have a lot of model friends on like Instagram and stuff. I guess acquaintances more, because some of them I haven't even met. But like, it's very easy to reach out and be like, hey, do you know anyone that's going to be in this area? Or do you want to come hang out and take pictures? Or even with like my photographer friends, I'm like, hey, do you know anyone? Like it's really just a throw out an idea and see who bites onto it.
That's pretty crazy, because our last guest, we're asking him, pretty much the same thing. Like, how do you go about getting people to collaborate with your songs? And he was saying, yeah, it's just, I go out on Facebook and, I just ask anybody who wants to join, and it's really that simple. So it seems like it's an easy process for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you like know the groups to be in, like there's a lot of groups on Facebook. Facebook is a great place, like, because there's so many tools to use. So with Facebook, I have 5 or 6 different groups that are just for photographers and models. So I can just reach out and have someone I've never met be like, hell yeah, I love your photos. I'll come take pictures with you. And then we meet up for coffee and then we take pictures the next week.
So kind of slightly off that, I'm sure you get people that are experienced and not experienced. As far as starting out for models, what would your advice be to them if they're interested in it, but they're not really confident yet in, traveling somewhere to work with a photographer they don't know and in a place they probably have never been?
Always bring someone with you. Always, always, always bring someone with you. If the photographer tells you you can't bring someone with you, that is a red flag, and do not shoot with that photographer. Escorts are 100% okay with any photographer that is professional. The only time that they ever don't let you bring someone is usually when they're a sketchy photographer and they're really just a guy with a camera that wants to guilt you into taking your clothes off or something and put you in a really uncomfortable position.
Especially, I think, for new models, because
oh yeah,
they want to break into the scene and they're not really.
Yeah, because new models just, if the photographer tells them to do something, they go, oh, okay, well, that's what the photographer said. And
Right.
I'm going to listen to him because he obviously knows what he's doing or she knows what she's doing. So, like, you have to know your boundaries, know what you're comfortable doing, and stick to that. If they try to get you to do something you don't want to do, you be like, hey, no, I'm not doing that. And make sure you read all the contracts. Usually there's a model release and you need to make sure you look through it before you sign it, because otherwise you could just be giving up all of your hold on any of those photos. So you can't post them, you can't sell them. And as a model, that's a really, like, that's the main part of your business, is to be able to sell your
exactly.
photos.
Like, you kind of need those pictures to
get
anywhere else. So, and do you think that the fact that you're a photographer and a model helps you on either side?
100%. I actually started the modeling after the photography because I wanted to learn more about, like, posing the models and lighting on models and stuff like that. So I was just like, hey, well, I could try it out and see what happens. And if I learn stuff, and I learn stuff, and if I like it, I'll keep doing it. And I have learned so much. And as a photographer, I know what angles are best to, like, hold my head and which ways that my body's gonna look best to the camera, because I've looked through the camera at other people doing it, and vice versa.
Have you ever had like any difficulty on, getting a client to, I guess, model like the right way or like get the right pose, I suppose?
The only issues I've ever had is, like, I guess I wouldn't call it issues. It would just be like little speed bumps, and it would be with, like, the new models that tell me that they have a whole bunch of ideas, and I'm like, okay, cool. Well, if you have the ideas, I'm gonna let you do your thing and I'll just take the photos. And then they show up and they freeze up and don't remember any of their ideas. So, like, one of the best things is to make a Pinterest board or save photos to your phone that, like, poses that you want to do, photos that you like, that are kind of like the mood or the feel for what you're trying to go for, so your photographer knows what you're looking for.
Gotcha.
And I know it should be a given, but have you ever run into any photographers that push your physical limits as far as certain poses go?
I guess, like, physical, I all of the photographers I've worked with were absolutely fantastic. They're some of my favorite people, and none of them have really, usually they're very good at explaining what they want, and then I'm a very flexible person, so I'm really good at bringing that image to life. Like, there was a shoot, I think it was a couple years ago now, that was featured in, I'm not sure which magazine it was, but it was a smaller magazine, and I had to, like, bring my leg over my arm while I was crawling on the floor in 4-inch heels. And that's not what the photographer asked for. He just asked for me to like spread out and crawl like anything that you could see in a horror movie or anything. But I was like, no, I got this. And I just, I don't think I've ever been pushed. I think I push myself more than photographers push me.
Yeah, because like you always want to strive to like create the best work, really.
Yeah, you wanna do your best and be out there, because the more out there you are, the bigger the wow factor and the more people like it and share it and buy it.
Right. And I know there's this one photo of yours that every time I see it, I just think about how I would never be able to pull it off. It's when you're up on that balcony, but not really leaning on anything. You're kind of just sitting up on your own power, and I'm just like, I could not do that on that small of a surface.
Yeah, there's been a couple places that I've put myself in interesting positions, and photographers have been very uncomfortable and told me not to do it. And I was like, no, really, it's okay. I'm gonna do this. And they're always so afraid that I'm gonna fall and I'm gonna hurt myself. And if I do, it's my own fault.
Mm.
What kind of equipment do you use? What did you start off with using?
I started using a Canon. Well, actually, I started with this little Kodak Easy Share digital camera that my parents got me when I was like 11.
Wow.
And then from there, I went immediately to a Canon DSLR. It was the EOS 10D, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I had a mentor that let me borrow his for a while, and then my parents and my brother went halves and bought me one for Christmas, and I was over the moon, but I lost it in a car accident. I then went on to a Nikon because a friend gave me a Nikon, which it was all right. It was more of a beginner camera, like a beginner DSLR compared to the Canon that I did have.
Mm-hmm.
And then I upgraded to my Pentax, which is what I have now. I have a Pentax K5 Mark II, and I love it so much. It's my favorite camera that I've ever had, and so many people constantly are like, well, you should upgrade because it's old, and I can't let it go because Pentax isn't making that many new cameras or doesn't have many upgrades, but I want to stick with Pentax.
Is that what you use in all your photos on Instagram right now?
Yes, everything other than there's a couple cell phone shots, but for the most part, yeah, they're all the Pentax.
Is
And what would
Pentax
you
like
say? Oh,
go ahead.
No, I'm changing the subject so you can
Oh,
go.
okay. I was just gonna ask, like, so you said Pentax is like an older camera?
Yeah.
And so, and like, I don't know, like, is it, since like you're using an older camera, like it kind of gives it a more vintage feel almost? I don't know much about cameras, so.
I wouldn't even say, I think that this one came out in like 2012 or something like that, like not too far back, but I guess
Okay.
really far back compared to now that it's 2020. But it does its job. It stays right up there with everybody else's. You can zoom way in on everything and it's still crystal clear. Like it's a great camera.
Yeah, because I was looking at your Instagram, your photography Instagram, and like all the photos look incredible. Like all the shots and everything. So it's crazy you can still do that with equipment that's from 2012, you know?
Oh, yeah.
What would you say the weirdest shoot you've ever done is?
As a model or a photographer?
Both.
I guess one of the weirdest shoots as a model I did was I went out to Manchester to shoot with this photographer that I had been following for a while. And I was like, hey, so I want to do something creepy. Halloween's coming. I'm going to bring blood. And he's like, okay, that's cool. And I showed up and he had this really, really nice studio, like wood floors. Like it was really cool. And he's like, just do the blood wherever. It doesn't matter if it gets all over anything. And I ended up pouring like 3 quarts of blood all over myself and the floor. And at one point I asked him if he had something to spit in, and he was real confused. And then he looked over and I was gargling the fake blood.
My God.
And he was like, "You're gonna get sick." And I was like, "No, I'm not. Just give me something to spit in because I can't swallow it." And those are still to this day some of my favorite photos. And that was like 4 years ago.
You're gonna have to send us that picture because now I want to see it.
Oh yeah, I can definitely show you some of those. There was so much blood all over that wood floor, and he just didn't even care.
That's another level.
Yeah.
So what's the weirdest you've ever done on the photography side, do you think?
I guess I haven't really done any weird like shoots as a photographer. I guess I put myself in very weird situations when I like crawl into stuff and like dangle over stuff and stuff. Like my boyfriend gets really, really worried because he thinks I'm gonna drop the $1,200 camera or myself, because I don't know, I always try to get a shot that normal people don't see or normal people don't get because they don't dangle off a bridge or jump over the ledge of something, because that's just not a safe thing to do.
I know. I've had you do a lot for me personally because I'm a needy bitch. But like, you shot my wedding and you did Brian's studio shots and some fish shots for me.
Yes.
And it was, I mean, obviously all really amazing.
That was the first time I ever shot fish.
They're tricky.
Yeah, they are.
What gigs do you get like the most? Like, what do people ask you to like shoot the most?
Probably the music stuff. And mostly for the music stuff, I show up at like local shows and I'll just shoot the entire thing, everybody. And then I'll post the photos watermarked and be like, "Hey guys, if you want these photos plus the 10 more that I have that I didn't post, like just send me a couple bucks and I'll unwatermark them all for you."
That seems like you could make a lot off of doing that.
Yeah, it's much easier than finding one band that's willing to pay for you to get in and then to shoot. And I just pay to get myself in and hope for the best. And I just get to keep
because
shooting,
then everyone's seeing like, wow, those are really good pictures of us.
Yeah.
You can probably get your name out too while you're there. Kind of be like, "Hey guys, follow me."
I always bring business cards. Always.
You find it's easy to make like connections with other photographers? You see like a lot of other photographers at, gigs like that?
At local shows, not so much. Usually it's just like me and one other person, and that one other person is usually brought by one of the bands, so they're only shooting that one band. So like a lot of times I'll be like, "Hey, so do you mind if I shoot this band too?" And if you do mind, obviously I'm not gonna do it because you're getting paid for it and I'm not gonna step on your toes.
Yeah.
And then I'll just shoot the other people and post all that, be like, "So I didn't shoot this band, but that's just because they had their own photographer and I'm not a dick."
So on the music front, what do you think the biggest show you ever shot was?
To be completely honest, I think it was that Every Enemy Alive show. With,
hey, I was there.
With American Grimm and Backwards. Like those are definitely some of like my favorite live shots. And I also did Rivals. I don't know if you've heard of Rivals, but they played with my boyfriend's band at the Bungalow in New Hampshire. And that was really cool. The bigger bands, they just it makes you feel so much better when they share your photos, because you're like, wow, they pay hundreds of dollars for these photographers to come on tour with them, thousands of dollars depending on the photographer, and they shared my photo. Like, it's just a really cool feeling.
Did you shoot at Jupiter Hall at all?
Yeah, that was the Every Enemy Alive and American
Was
Grim
that
and
American
stuff.
Grim? Right. Okay, it was. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't remember most of that. I didn't have much to do other than sit at the bar.
Yeah, no, I was all over the place.
I saw that.
That's also like a bigger place, so there's a lot more place to be.
Yeah, that stage was massive.
Where's Jupiter Hall? Is that in Massachusetts?
It was in Crossgates Mall. They closed and opened a new one now.
Oh, so in New York?
Yeah. Probably, honestly, the biggest show I've been to, too, unless you count Wookiee Fest. But that's...
Wookiee Fest?
Yeah. That's a festival,
Oh yeah,
not really
I
a
tried
show.
that too.
Yeah. I don't know if you'd count that as a show, because it was a festival.
What's
Yeah, it was a
Wookiee
pretty
Fest?
cool festival.
It's an outdoor metal festival, basically. It was really cool.
Oh.
Although my bitch ass being allergic to weed was dying the whole time.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. There was a lot of pot at that show.
Oh yeah, which I don't mind. I mean,
Only
just
the
have to
fact that you're allergic to it.
stay down upwind. Yeah. There was this one
Yeah, I
group,
actually
though.
ended up having to leave that early.
Yeah, we left at like 6
Sadly.
in the morning because Brian was sick.
Yeah, we had to leave. It wasn't very long after my boyfriend's set because he got a migraine, and then his guitarist was joking around and like punched him in the head, and he got
Damn.
to the point where he almost threw up.
Oh man. Yeah, no
And then
one
we
for
had to drive
musicians
like
were.
3 hours.
Yeah, we had to drive back at 6 in the morning with him stopping every now and then to puke. It's like, but it was a fun show. It definitely was.
That's rough. I didn't realize he was sick for that show.
Yeah, he drank too much.
Oh, see, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes much more sense.
But it sucked because like his family came out to see it. His aunt and uncle were there, and his dad was there.
Whole bunch of family.
So we were like waking them all up at 6 in the morning out of their tents to tell them we were leaving.
Oof. Yeah, we didn't. It wasn't even dark by the time we left.
Yeah. No, it was definitely an interesting experience to go.
Yeah, it was fun. I took so many pictures.
I believe it. I mean, you're very thorough when you take pictures too.
Yeah, usually in like a half-hour set, I'll take 200 photos. So with how many bands played, there were
Yeah.
a lot. I went through multiple friggin' SD cards.
And I know when you were texting me after the wedding about how many pictures you took, I was just like, girl, why?
I didn't want to miss anything.
You just don't want to regret taking that one shot that you could have had.
Right.
Exactly. Like I was just like click, 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 taking pictures because I'd rather go through 3,000 pictures and get all of the pictures that I wanted than go through 200 pictures and miss that one photo that would have been fantastic to have.
Yeah. How many
My-
pictures can fit on like an SD card even? Like how many do you go
Um,
through?
To be completely honest, I'm not entirely sure how many. I shoot RAW, which makes the photos much larger when they save them because it saves everything and it's not compressed or anything. So if I wanted to change anything in post, I could, and it doesn't screw up the photo or make it look gross.
Mhm.
So I can shoot less on a SD card than I could if I was shooting them JPEG, but I get better quality photos that way. So
Okay.
like,
So shooting raw takes more space, but it gives you higher quality.
yes.
And what does it exactly do when it's compressed when you take photos like that?
Well, when you shoot RAW, you can like open it up in Lightroom and it has all of that information, like all
Okay.
of the shadows. If you shot, say, something was too bright, it'll still have all of that information that it saw underneath all of that blown out brightness, so you can bring that brightness back down and you still have all of those details, as opposed to if you shot in JPEG, you couldn't get those details back as well. because it compressed it down and it was like, all right, this is how the photo's supposed to look. This is how you shot it. And RAW is more of a, it's easier to play with.
Yeah, so it also makes it like easier for editing too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And do you do like a lot of editing on your photos? Like you just like touch it
I
up a little bit, or like do you really go into detail?
I try to edit as little as possible. I try to get the photos as perfect in camera as I can, because for the longest time I thought that being a photographer meant taking perfect photos. But as I've grown and I've learned more, there's definitely a lot of editing that goes into everything. And
Mhm.
when I see photos, I go, "Oh, I wish I could take a photo like that." And I now take into consideration that they probably saturated it, they probably pulled out color and changed the temperature and all those things. Like
And just
there's a lot. Yeah.
What do
so
you think?
you like to keep your photos, not highly edited. You like to get that perfect shot, and that's kind of like your style.
Yeah. Yeah, I most of the time I just sharpen stuff a little bit, maybe bring out a little bit of color if it was a little bit too blown out, and sometimes I play with the exposure, but usually I'll sit there for 20 minutes playing with my camera and taking 45 shots to try to get that one photo as perfect as I can.
So, what do you think the best piece of advice you would give or were ever given for a beginning photographer?
Learn your camera. Like, many people go into photography and they're like, all right, well, I can just shoot in auto and I'll get all the photos that I want and they'll be great. And it can be true, but when you have more control over your camera and you know what all the settings do, you can make your camera take the picture that you have in your head. And the picture that you have in your head is 99% of the time not the picture that the camera thinks you want to take. So auto is not manual all the way. Like, as a beginning photographer, like, learn that and stick to it.
Take any classes for photography, like composition classes or any of that stuff?
When I was younger, I had a mentor for a little while, and he actually was really good friends with my sister-in-law, and he would spend time on their farm and he'd go around and he'd take pictures, and he let me borrow his camera and he would take the camera back at the end of the day and he would then pull all of the photos off and put them onto a disc for me for next time. And I would show up and he'd give me the disc and I'd have all the photos. And then any of the photos that he thought could change in any way, he would write little notes on the photos. So when I went through them, they had little notes. If he thought that I should crop it, if I should get closer, if I should change depth of field, if I should stop angling the way that I was angling things. And then at the end, he'd have a couple of edits from the photos that I did, and he would explain how he edited them. And I think that that was like the best thing that I could have had, because when I went to school in high school, I took a photography class and I bombed it. It was terrible. I got like a 12 for an overall grade because most of the time they focused on Photoshop, which I thought I didn't need, because as a photographer, I thought that I was just going to take perfect photos and I would never have to edit them and everything would be perfect. And I didn't pay attention. I just went on Tumblr the whole time. So I really wish I utilized that class, because that class would have helped me a lot now, because now if I want to take a picture and I don't know how or the best way to do it, or I tried and I failed, I'll sit for hours watching YouTube tutorials. And especially with Photoshop, there's so many tutorials that you can just pull up and they have the photo that they're doing the tutorial with that you can download and you can follow it right there. And at this point, that's the class that I take.
I think we all do.
Yeah, I think like it's so easy nowadays. Like anybody can be self-taught with like whatever they want to do. YouTube out there, like there's limitless information and limitless classes. You can like literally just teach yourself. It's all about having that drive and wanting to put yourself through it.
Yeah, you gotta have that motivation though, and that you just gotta sit down and pay attention instead of watching your phone while you're watching the YouTube, because
definitely
you won't learn anything.
What's like a mistake to say, like somebody's like brand new to photography? What's like a beginner mistake that you see a lot? Like, would there even be one? Because like photography, it could be subjective to like, I don't know.
I definitely say the subjective thing, because art is art and you can portray your art in any way that you'd like. But one of my pet peeves, I guess, is camera flash. The on camera flash, the one that the camera comes with. It's terrible. It's horrible. And you can get a external flash with a diffuser for $20 on eBay. It doesn't have to be a $400 flash, but it makes your photos so much better, like 100 times better, because you have less of that super bright in your face light and more of an all around glow, I guess.
This one might be a little harder, but what do you think your favorite photo is that you've ever taken?
Because I know you got a lot of them, so.
Oh boy. Oh, there's thousands.
If you could pick only one.
I think one of my favorites, I have this one photo of a sunset in Plainfield, Mass, over the Plainfield Pond, and the reflection is perfect. The water was completely still and it looks like a painting, and I have it printed on canvas in my living room, and it's still like I look at it and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I took that. Like I love photos that make, like, as soon as I take one and I go, wow, I took that. Like, that's
so you usually have
feeling.
Like that instant feeling, like when you take a shot, you're like, this is it right here. This is the photo.
Yes. I actually went out the other night. In North Adams, there is a theater. Well, it's not really a theater anymore, but it's got the lights and the sign, and it says "Be excellent to each other" right now. And every time I drove by it, I was like, wow, I need to get a picture of that. And I'm going to go at night when the lights are on. And I decided to do that, and I set everything up, and I was taking pictures. I had it on the tripod, and I was doing long exposure, so I got all the lights. And a car drove by, and I was like, oh no. And my boyfriend's like, did that ruin it? And I looked at the photo, and it had this perfect light trail down the side of the photo. And I was like, well, I'm done. That was perfect. That's exactly what I wanted, and we can go home now. And I pretty much did. I packed everything up, and I was like, this is the photo that I want, and it's exactly what I got. And I didn't expect it to get it like that, but cool.
Sometimes mistakes are the coolest things.
Exactly.
Like the same thing will happen with me, like when I'm making music, like I'll accidentally, I don't know, do something random, and like I'm like, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard. I have to add that.
Yeah. It's mistakes make art at some point.
Yeah.
You just gotta be weird and go with it.
Can't relate. I just play with fish all day. All right, this has been Dawg Talk episode 5. Thanks for being on, Amber. It was great. And we're sponsored today by staraquatics.com. Look them up. And
link is in description.
Yeah, I think we're done.
Check out Amber's photography page on Instagram. That link will be in description. And that's it. Episode 5.